Well, it's great to be here on another Peace Day afternoon with people and be part of this very important message of raising a flag over our city that makes a clear statement for peace. But I was watching part of a movie, a Hollywood blockbuster last night, and like lots of Hollywood blockbusters, it had a long part in it that, although it was set hundreds of years ago, it was a long part that involved all kinds of people slashing each other to pieces and all kinds of destruction and violence. And thinking about the fact that I was going to be here today, it did pass through my mind to say, really, why bother? What's the point of this? In Edmonton, a few score of us, or maybe later today, a few hundreds of us gather and say, we want to make a commitment to peace. And yet we're surrounded through the millennia and in every part of the globe by so much violence, so many acts of war, that we might say, well, what can one person really do? Or, it doesn't make any difference if I act. We can never stand up against these forces. But then I was thinking back to, and it's great the way Paula just ended her song, I was thinking back to the 1960s that a few of us are old enough to remember, and how much we use that two-fingered message to each other. It was a message that was a way of identifying with each other as people that in the midst of events of war in the world that were deeply upsetting, it was a message of saying, we identify with another way. It was also a message of defiance that said to those that propagate violence, we won't take it. And I might only be one person, but I'm going to stand here and demonstrate that peace does matter and that I'm committed to it. So let me just for 2 or 3 minutes share with you something that's been really valuable to me in the last days. We can get tired out with this kind of work towards creating a different kind of world. But I've been reading a little book that's got a lot of interviews with some of the peacemakers that we know very well. And one of them is Cesar Chavez, that some decades ago was so active helping organize agriculture workers in California. And he was asked about how he thought about nonviolence. And in this interview, he says, we don't need to talk anymore about the big ideas. Jesus and Gandhi and Martin Luther King have written everything that needs to be said. The ideas are all there. What we need to do is just get out there and day by day do the work. And every night, what we need to say to ourselves before we lie down and go to sleep is, what have we done today? Not what big thoughts have we had, not what inspirational aphorisms have we shared, but Chavez said we need to ask ourselves, what have we done today? So I want to leave you with a very practical little reminder of the fact that peace is going to come when all of us are involved with, like Cesar Chavez, getting out there day by day and doing what we can do. Things have got worse maybe since the 1960s, when two fingers were a great message about peace. And so this afternoon I want to invite us to be people who start talking about 5 fingers for peace. And it works out really well because the word peace has 5 letters, P-E-A-C-E. And so our hand can be a reminder about our commitment or our involvement in peace work. And a hand is a wonderful part of us as people, We can use it to make beautiful music. We can use it to do good works and build houses for people that are homeless. We can also use it to commit acts of violence. And so the first thing that my hand reminds me about peace work is that it is a choice to be involved in peace. Peace is not going to come floating down the street and attach itself to ourselves. Peace is going to come because we all make choices to be involved with it. And having made that choice to be involved with peace, we put our hands into action. Here's 5 things that I think we need to remember if we're going to see success and if we're going to survive through the work that's involved. First of all, perspective. P for perspective as we start thinking about the word peace. We have to consciously put in our heads every day the fact that peace does matter and that peace is only going to be true on earth if we first make sure we live our own lives to make it true inside us, and secondly, we live it as a testimony to the people around us. So we have to begin every day with a perspective, a way of thinking about ourselves in the world that says peace is where it's at. But that's not enough to have that mindset, if you like. The second letter in the word peace is E, and E reminds me that peace requires us to make a commitment to educate ourselves. We need to know what's going on. We need to, as Renee reminded us, learn how to peel back the layers and find out the real story underneath of why there is violence and why there is war going on. We need to identify the injustices that are creating violence and war. We need to call to account those that are responsible for those injustices. And we'll only do that if instead of watching entertainment, we spend some of our day getting educated about what's happening in the world around us, being educated for peace. The third letter in the word peace is A. And that one you can probably already guess, because most of us here are activists. So with our heads looking at things properly, with our knowledge built up because of the education we've done, we need to be people of action. Good intentions never change the world. Noble ideas have never changed the world until they're translated into action. And so we need to do smart actions. We need to be gathering together and figuring out what needs to be done. We need to be setting goals that are sensible, that can get us some results. We need to be raising the resources we need to be able to do these things. And then we need to start being visible more and more in the community. Not just on one day of the year, but day in and day out at event after event. And so action, perspective, education, action. C is the fourth letter in peace. And to me, that speaks of the fact that we need community to be going about peace work. This is not work for us to do in solitary. It is not lone wolf activity, but peace is work that needs community. We need to be careful not to get so caught up in our passion about the cause that we forget to take care of each other, that we forget to be building relationships with new people and drawing them in and making the circle larger, that we forget to be tolerant of those that might not agree 100% with us, but that lean towards us. And so we need community. We need to build our numbers. We need to be able to know that when we go out, we're surrounded by sisters and brothers of like mind that share our commitment. So perspective, education, action, sustaining community. And finally, peace ends with another E, and that's to me a reminder that we have to have endurance. This is not magical work. Peace is not going to fall from the sky into our arms, all ready to go. Nations are not going to step away from war just because somebody tells them it's not nice. We have to be ready day after day to go back out there, to know that sometimes we'll have small successes and we'll win here or there. Sometimes we'll have just been there to be a testimony, but we're going to hang in there and we're going to do it. Now that might sound a bit grim, but Bob Bosson, the old Canadian folk singer, had a great t-shirt that he would sometimes wear when he was performing that said, just because we're changing the world doesn't mean we can't have some fun. And so as we're enduring, I want to invite us as peacemakers to also remember that we need to enjoy this work. We need to know that we're on the correct side, that peace is how human beings are intended to be together. And even if that may sometimes be lost in the fog of war and violence, it is going to prevail. And so there's a joy in that. So there you have it. In 2014, we've moved on from peace sister, peace brother, to 5 fingers for peace. Very practical, like Cesar Chavez told us all those decades ago. Just go out there every day and do what you can, and somebody else will do what they can, and all those small bits are adding up to a better world. So we begin our morning with a perspective that says peace matters. We look for opportunities to learn more about these issues and educate ourselves. We're there when there's a need for action. We care about each other in community, and we hold on, and we endure, and we're going to see that events like this gather more and more support as we step forward to say that this is a world that wants peace, and we're going to do our little bits to make that happen. So thank you for being here this afternoon.